Hello everybody, this is Kat and I've been a little bit caught out today. It's just one of those days, so you have to excuse my location. But I wanted to talk today about the nervous system and the importance of tending to the nervous system and what we can do to keep our nervous systems relaxed. Now, I'm joined by Nahid, who is from the human method. She devised the human method. Now, let's see if I can get her go live with the human method. Let's see. Okay, hold. Okie dokie, hold on everybody. Hang on a second. Oh, Nahid.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Where are you?
Oh, I've been caught out. I was on my way back and it's like, oh yeah, the traffic and all of that.
Welcome. It's nice to see you.
It's good to see you too.
It's always good
And I
to
kind
see
of
you.
feel like that's kind of appropriate for what we're talking about, because life is like that. Life is about sort of, we're out, we're busy, we're doing stuff, and we're rattled all the time. We're doing 5 million things. So hello, Nahid.
Hello. How are you?
We're landing.
Yes, we're landing.
And because you devised the human method.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Shall I tell you a bit about it?
Yeah, I'm curious.
So I, as you might know, I had studios in central London for about 13 years. And as I'm sure you do know, running a business is joyous and torturous, and you go through so many emotions so quickly in a day. And then when I had quite a big team in my heyday. I had about 50 people that I employed, contractors on the payroll and all the rest of it. And managing people is quite tough, and it was just me doing the business. But I was also teaching, which is my love. Very much into quite slow yoga, somatic kind of based yoga and restorative. And I kind of noticed that I'd have people in a class for about 20 minutes because the other time they were arriving and landing, and then towards the end they were gearing up to get stressed again. They'd already left. And then they, I chat to them at the desk, and then they tell me that they weren't having periods, they couldn't get pregnant, they were really stressed all the time, they were grinding their teeth, and on and on and on. And I was like, I want to go under the bonnet, because this, movement, of course, is really interesting and is really useful, but we are so disconnected from mind and body. We understand it intellectually, but we do not understand it somatically. And soma means the living body. And another way of thinking about it is that you could think of it as pure sensation. And what's interesting about that is that as a baby, you experience the world with your whole self, your physiology, your feelings, which are sensations, with your emotions, which are made up from those things, with your thoughts, which are made up from everything below, and then that goes on to form your actions and your behaviors. But maybe around about the age of 3, you start to discover who you are as a separate identity from your mother and from other people. And then there becomes a separation of mind and body, and it's a false, it's a false concept, because there is no difference. So your nervous system is your brain, your spinal cord, the connections from that into your body, and from your body back into spinal cord and brain. So it's this constant biofeedback loop. And so there is no separation. And I don't think we really understand that in yoga. I don't think we really understand it in yoga. I don't think we really understand it in other kind of movement modalities, because it's not, I don't think it's explained, because it's understood, it's understood as a philosophical concept, which is cognitive mind, but I don't think it's really understood as an embodied practice for most people. Unless you've had years and years of study and you've actually looked and sought for philosophy, not just the physical practice. I don't actually think most people understand it. I certainly didn't when I did my yoga teacher training, because I don't think my teachers understood it really. Do you know what I mean? So it was always it was explained as a concept. So I'm not disrespecting anybody by saying that. I'm just saying that how we approach information in our culture is it's a concept that we go, but we don't really embody it.
Yeah.
So I guess I was looking for something that was a lot more embodied, because movement and how we live are very separate kind of thing.
Yeah.
Things we exercise or we move to beast ourselves or punish ourselves,
Yeah.
or to work through our madness in some way.
Yeah.
It's like this part of ourselves that we don't like and we don't accept, we want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
our trauma or our anxiety or our whatever, we want to move away from it. And actually my thing is, it's not to sit with it either, because I don't think that's very healthy. It's move it through you. Let it move through you. So let everything move through you, because that's what you're designed to do. So that's how I got into it. And as ever, you know what, as teachers, you come to this stuff because you're trying to resolve things for yourself. You know, my particular thing is, I'm the daughter of immigrants. I was talking to one of my Indian clients earlier on today, and I was like, you know, we all the women from this kind of thing, this of my sort of age, we look at each other and we kind of nod and we go, yep, I know, because it's quite tough love. There's no safety net, and you know, the whole message is just work hard, work hard, work hard, be a good girl, and don't let down your parents, and you know, on and all these kind of expectations of you. And so I hadn't really modeled how to look after myself. I hadn't had that modeled. I didn't know how to comfort myself, apart from the usual ways that we all do: booze, partying a lot, watching lots of, you know, going out a lot, distracting ourselves. I didn't actually know how to do it. And even my yoga practice didn't do it. And I'm not just, again, it did other things, you know, because movement was great and I like the challenge of movement, but it didn't truly comfort me, I don't think. And neither did my meditation practice. And I've been taught meditation by, you know, some really great heavyweight teachers. And actually, I find, you know, that the rules around it of sitting still and having to be still isn't actually what we do as human organisms. So I question quite a lot, sought the best practices, and the human method really is all the really good practices that have science, they're science backed. I can explain how they work and why they work. And I need that. I kind of need that for my own understanding, because I don't want to disempower myself by giving everything to the teacher and the teacher telling me what to do and me learning by rote. That feels very unequal and unnourishing. And so what I was just really interested in is, how can I empower people to just go, it's actually really simple. Once you understand that you're this completely integrated being, it all becomes really easy. In a nutshell.
And there are so many things that come out of there, and sort of questions to ask. And people might think, well, what does the practice look like? Like, that's the kind of, as you say, the cognitive theory of it. So how does it work out in practice? But what you've just said to me actually really, really resonates about the meditation being stillness and it being hard to be still as a human, because I'm going to describe my experience of some of your practices, which are laying down, being embodied, feeling embodied, but being really still. And actually, it's really interesting that we think of it in that way, instead of the expectation of, oh, this is going to be a movement, this is going to be a yoga practice, this is going to be like lift your right hand, lift your left hand, and it's not like that.
No, it's not like that. So I think since the 1950s, with the onslaught of advertising, which has basically told us all that we're not good enough and we have to buy product, that makes us mistrust our own bodies and the signals from our own bodies. So we don't actually understand what it means to listen into when we're feeling tired, or listen into when we're feeling, you know, we've got some energy and we can use that, and on and on. So we just don't trust ourselves. So we don't really have an understanding of what it means to soothe and the benefits of moving, and kind of really being intimately connected with how that makes us feel. So as opposed to doing something because you feel you ought, or doing something because it makes you look good and you can tell everyone you've done this.
Yeah.
And all the, do you know what I mean? So it kind of, almost the industry around exercise, yoga, I'm going to include yoga as exercise because I
Yeah.
think it is in the West. And I don't say that disparagingly because I love movement and I love exercise.
Yeah.
But I just think all of that is, again, we're not really connected to how it makes us feel. So even when we're tired, we think I've got to drag myself to the gym or to the yoga class, or I've got to go for a run, but I'm really tired. But if we had a more intimate relationship with ourselves, and you do that through your interoceptive sense, so the sense is called interception, and that's listening to the signals from your body. When you have that relationship and you're in relationship, then you will do exactly the thing that makes you feel good and soothes you, and whatever your mental, physical state is. So if I'm really tired, I'm not going to do lots of weights and go out for a run. I will roll on the floor. I'll do something that will just help to prepare me for rest and prepare me for bed.
Yeah.
It's never stillness. It's never ever stillness.
Yeah.
Or if I've got lots of energy, then I've got a little mini trampoline and I kind of jump on up and down to that to Brittany.
That's
do you know
so
what I mean? So
fun.
it's so fun. Yeah, it's really super fun because actually movement can be fun. It should be fun and it should make you feel something. It should help to process your stuff, because actually what's really interesting is that our brains didn't evolve for thinking. Our brains evolved for complex movement when we were hunter-gatherers. And what's interesting about that is if you want to change your emotional state, move.
Right.
So it's a really sort of simple message. And so what you might do in class exactly is you're actually not being still. I prefer the word quiet. And you're being curious. You are exploring. I'm not saying put your left hand up and do this, that. I'm saying, try this or try this, and then do it in this curious way. And then, in my life, when I'm kind of doing one-to-ones, I'll be watching someone saying, did you see how you did that? Or I might ask you the question in class, did you notice that was going to the left was stickier than going to the right? That's interesting. Why do you think that is? Shall we explore that again? Whatever it is. So I'm asking you to just be really curious about the quality of your movements, because everyone can move, right? Unless you've got something hugely wrong with you. Most people can move.
Yeah.
But do you move with ease? Do you move with joy? Do you move with comfort? I'm really interested in that.
That's an interesting part. So basically what we're doing, I'm now just paraphrasing you, see if I've got this, is we're getting more curious about ourselves. We're getting a little bit more sensitive within our bodies, so that we can kind of learn more about how our bodies are feeling, because that will also inform how our emotional state is and how we are.
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, there's more communication coming from the body up, a bottom-up approach, than there is the other way down. So we really need to pay this attention, because we think we're a brain with a body, but actually we're a body with a brain.
That's so interesting, isn't it? I love that.
Yeah.
And in terms of sort of the methodology, and because I know it's come from Feldenkrais. Am I saying that
is one of my most, you did say that correctly. Feldenkrais is my most significant training and amazing. I've always had quite a somatic approach, and somatics is the umbrella kind of term, and underneath it comes Alexandra technique, Rolfing, Feldenkrais, and there's a few other bits in the body mind centering. But I was very, very much drawn to Feldenkrais because for me, it felt just the most, rigorous kind of training, because Moishe Feldenkrais was a person. He was born in 1904, died in 1984, was in London for a bit. And he was born in Russia, and he emigrated to Israel at the age of 13 when Israel was being built. And he managed to get degrees in mechanical and electrical engineering. He was a doctorate of physics. He worked for a number of years in the French nuclear research program, and he was really physically active. He used to play football and he practiced martial arts, and he was one of the first Europeans to earn a black belt in judo, because he worked with the originator of judo. And he got a chronic knee injury, which would have meant that if he'd had surgery, he probably would have been in a wheelchair. So he applied his really clever mind and his knowledge of physics and body mechanics and neurology and learning theory and psychology to this new understanding of human function and you know, how we function really. And so he applied all of that to himself, and he was able to walk again. And so he devised this method, and it's many different lessons that he devised. And there's also a one-to-one kind of hands-on, and it's nothing like massage. It's the beauty of the Feldenkrais method is that it's all about you discovering yourself rather than the teacher imposing their will on you. So I love that. And so that's a very formative part of the human method. But also, 25 years or so of me being out in the field, trying things on myself, working with clients, studying, researching, and just really reaching just for the best practices to help you to soothe your nervous system. Because, we're in real crisis at the moment. The world just gets busier. We've got relentless amounts of information being, dumped on us every day. I've got a really old stat, which was that you've got the amount, it's almost like 34 gigabytes of information every day being landed in your brain. And this was before the wide use of mobile phones. So can you imagine what it is now? And if you ran that on a laptop, the laptop would burn out by the end of the week. So actually, it's really critical you take control of your attention and your curiosity and where you pay attention, where you send your awareness to. Because, I'm just seeing in clinic, I've got an online clinic, and I'm just seeing people, from their 20s right through to people in their 80s that are just burnt out, chronic, and having real chronic issues. So it's really critical. We're living, and with the advent of AI, I mean, Lord knows what's going to happen. It's kind of exciting. We're in good hands, but I don't trust whose hands it's in.
No.
So it's kind of quite a critical time, I think, because everything's speeding up so much that our only power, in fact, our superpower is where you pay attention, where and how you pay attention, and perhaps secondary to that is how you spend your money.
I love it. Our superpower is where and how we pay attention. I think that's really, really beautiful, because it's that thing which we all know, like when we're kids, like look at yellow cars, and then suddenly everyone's got a yellow car.
Yes.
And we know that the way that we frame something really affects the way that the way that we feel it.
Yes.
Yet still intuitively, I certainly, even knowing all of this, I just sort of very, very reactively sort of go through my day. Yes. And it's easy to latch on to things as good, bad, and that accumulates. Yes. It accumulates in my body, so that towards the end of the day, I'm edgy.
Yeah. And if you're like that, imagine somebody who's so far away from this world is like that. And I was the same with my studios. I was in the wellness world. Hello to your dog. I was in my wellness.
Sorry about that. Great.
No, please don't worry. It's always nice to have animals. So I was in the wellness world, doing all these things, but stressed as hell. Because actually, life is, there's a lot to do, there's a lot to contend with, and we don't really understand or respect rest.
That's the thing. And the fact that rest also, like if I could name that as well, is a revolutionary act and a superpower, because I only discovered the power of rest when I became perimenopausal. And when I started to basically not be able to cope with stress, because before I think I just sort of traveled through life and and I was just like, and it was all fine. And then suddenly things weren't fine. I couldn't cope with it anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think perimenopause is really critical age, isn't it? Because up until then, you're kind of coasting through life. Life feels really fun. You might have a partner. You're going out a lot. You've probably just got a job and a flat to
Yeah.
pay rent on or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then there gets a really critical time that you're in your 40s and you either get amassed children or animals or whatever. You've got a partner, long-standing, and you have a house and a mortgage, and then you've got a business. And suddenly you're being pulled in all of these different directions, whereas when you were younger, it's probably going out and working. So you're being pulled in all of these different directions. And if your system isn't biologically fit, then something's going to break,
Yes.
because it's too much. It's too much to cope with, isn't it? So your 40s onwards is a really critical time, I think, for women as well, in particular, because you suddenly start having these demands and you're still going at the same pace.
Yes.
And your expectation of yourself is still the same. You don't actually acknowledge that you've got, you know, if you look at it all as a project, you've got project partner and project dogs and project business and project children.
Right.
And do you know what I mean? And you're not really, you're just thinking you're the same thing, unable to cope all of a sudden. But actually what you've done is you've just, like a game of Jenga, you've just added more and more on, and nobody's going to be able to cope. But also, you know, our culture, Kat, is that we have to destroy ourselves in order to service others. And it's always women at the end of that. And it's, you know, why is that? Because who's running things? And so it's a bit rubbish, isn't it? It's a bit of a rubbish message, because, you know, I don't have children. I looked at my mum and I just thought, that is so stressful. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't have the wherewithal. I don't have the support around me that I have, you know, that I feel is nurturing and supportive. I just don't want to do that. And also I like reading books and going on holiday when I want and and I didn't particularly, do you know what I mean? But for so many reasons, of course, they're all really big reasons, but that's a really important thing. What message are we giving out to younger women as well about how we live in this world as women? You know, I think that's really, so you know, and often when I'm working with people, I'm like, well, actually, this is interesting for you all, because when you regulate your nervous system, you are also co-regulating your ecosystem around you. So all of your family and your animals and your children and your friends, and then out into the wider world. And isn't that lovely? So actually, you're not just doing yourself, you know, you're not just benefiting from it yourself. You are actually leading by example, but on you're also co-regulating other people's nervous systems. So
I love that.
That is
I
lovely.
love that so much. And we know it intuitively, because, you know, when you hang out with somebody who's a little edgy, you somehow also get like that. We pick it up from each other.
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm sure you've done this before, you know, in your life as well. But once you get to discovering yourself and getting a better relationship with yourself, you sort of have to ditch the people that aren't very resolved and aren't in relationship with themselves, and even don't want to be, you know, are quite resistant to that. You just kind of have to think, actually, I can't be around you because I find you, our values aren't the same anymore. So that kind of often happens, doesn't it, on this whole path of finding out who you are and wanting to be more compassionate.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely right. So it's like, what I've taken from here is that the reasons why it's important to regulate our nervous system, and why meditation is often a very difficult and counterintuitive practice, even though it's incredibly useful and wonderful and magical. That's why it's very difficult, because it's not somatic, really.
Yeah. And also, actually, all the science points to that it is magical and it is great. And I had a meditation practice of 20 years. So it is magical and it is great. But you can do other things to feel magical and great. It's not the only thing. I think sometimes in the wellness world, we want to believe. And so we kind of go, oh, yoga's the answer, meditation's the answer. And it isn't for everyone. And I think we ought to be careful of that kind of, you know, blanket prescribing it. And also kind of, you know, prescribing things to it that aren't wholly true. Do you know what I mean? There's other practices you can do that will also give you the same benefits. We get so attached to things that we're passionate about. And so we imagine that would be great for everyone. So yeah, the science shows that it's true. All those things are true of meditation, but also true of other things. So, and
to me, this is exactly it. This is now everything's making sense, because your practice to me feel very meditative, as in they're a process of sort of self-discovery,
Yes.
much more than more sort of than a linear movement practice, or a
Yes.
movement practice which actually goes anywhere, really.
Yes.
There are lots of somatic practices which are very much not as structured as yoga, and
Yeah.
which are less like sort of feeling and rolling around. But this is even more subtle
Yeah.
and delicate. And I kind of want to feel like when you're doing these practices, it's like you're sort of sipping a fine wine instead of sort of gulping a beer.
Lovely. Beautiful. It's exactly that. It's kind of turning the dial, or it's like a dimmer switch.
Yeah.
It's kind of, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Finding out where you are. I kind of liken it to tuning back to your own radio frequency. So it kind of expands your window of tolerance. But I think the reason you found it meditative and curious and all those things is because it involves all of you yet again. So it's not just mind, it's not just body, it's all of you: physiology, feelings, emotions, thoughts, and actions and behaviors. So it's about your self-image, actually. And so once and I think there was a question about why is it good for menopausal folk. Well, because your whole self-image has been upended. You think you're this sort of person, you get to 40, 50, and then you're just like, I actually don't know who I am anymore, because you're faced with your physical, things happening to you on a physical level that you think you can control and take this for it and and that doesn't work, and you don't understand why you feel a bit vulnerable, or you're crying all the time, or you've just lost your confidence. And I had exactly the same thing going on for me. The physical stuff I could sort of figure out, but I didn't know anything about the mental stuff. I mean, how ridiculous, I always kind of think, how did I get to this age and not know that?
I know, especially as you say, you've been knee deep in wellness, yoga, meditation all your life.
I know, it's so interesting, isn't it? It really blindsided me as well. So then I had to think about, well, when you're faced with your physical limits or challenges, or kind of, it's really interesting because it forces you to self-reflect. And so your mid-40s, or midlife, is a really great time to just kind of figure out, I've just been racing through life. And if you haven't yet hit the wall with some sort of physical thing going on for you, which I did several times, then that's the time that you really are going to hit that wall. And then you have to kind of think about, how do you want, we haven't got long, you can't pretend, you can't kid yourself thinking I've got forever. This is now your midlife, you haven't got that long. How do you want the next part of your life to be? And most women say, I don't want that that I've just been through for the last 10 years, because it's too frenetic and it's not nourishing, and it's just not how I saw my life. So actually it's a really powerful time to self-reflect and come out the other end. And when you come out the other end, it's amazing, because you're like She-Ra, and you will take no shit. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to be with people who just don't give you joy. You don't want to do anything in your life. I mean, I got rid of my studio, so I was like, no, I'm not doing this. You don't want anything that stands in the way of joy and pleasure and love and laughter and fun stuff, because that's actually what life is about, kind of, and relationships with people, because that's actually what life is about, isn't it?
This is so beautiful, and you're so wise, Nahid. And I'm not there yet. I'm still swimming through the swamp. And I feel that practices like yours are so important to get me there, to get back to who am I anyway? What's it all about? How do I get those moments of joy?
Absolutely. And you know what? You will get there, promise me, from an old bird to a younger one, but you will get there. And you just, I mean, how brilliant that you're in, to have this work as well, and all the other work that you do, because it's a process, actually. And I think that's the thing. Rather than thinking about the outcome, I know that wasn't particularly what you were saying, but I think we get so attached to the outcome that we want to get there now. But actually, it's a process that you have to go through. It's the beauty of the process. That's actually the work, and it's life, isn't it? Like when I used to teach, I used to run yoga teacher trainings for level 1 yoga teacher trainers. I don't think it was, I really enjoyed it, but I don't think it's my mindset. I kind of prefer people who already have been through that and are a bit more curious, because they really, you know, when you go from nothing to wanting to learn yoga, you want content and you want outcome.
Yeah.
And actually, you become a good yoga teacher because of the years you put in and of teaching different bodies and having a practice for yourself. And, you know, the most gorgeous teachers are the ones that really have their own practice, and they really embody what they do. Whereas you can't really just, you know, kind of grab content and then present yourself as this thing, because you have to have that experience and you have to have that personal experience.
Yeah.
And so really, I think it's all about, life is all about the beauty of the process. Because, you know, if you miss that, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss it all.
That's it. Oh, thank you, Nahid. It's so good to chat, and I'm so grateful that we'd had those questions beforehand, which has sort of framed our conversation. And I'm really excited to see how people enjoy your practice and enjoy the human method on the site.
Yes,
that's so cool. And we've got a workshop coming up, which is about unlocking breath patterns.
Yes,
and I think that's going to be a really interesting exploration into ourselves. And again, it's feeling things somatically, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So I think, you know, again, breathing practices can become an intellectual thing sometimes, you know, especially when you go into pranayama. It becomes an intellectual thing, but really the workshop will be all about, okay, well, you know, where are you feeling it? What's moving? Let's touch those places and let's really feel it moving. And you suddenly get this beautiful, expansive, multi-dimensional breath that you don't have to work at. I'm really anti the working at things, you might suspect, because I think that's a really male perspective. Like everything's like, it's, you know those podcasts, those I call them bro podcasts, and it's all about work hard, do hard, and it kind of apes this, you know, capitalist culture, and I want to do exactly the opposite of that to counter the culture.
I love it. And it's that culture of like, life hacks for how we can do more in
I hate
our
a hack.
lives.
Yeah, I don't want to hack. I want a sustainable, lifelong practice that nourishes me and is compassionate. It's you know, we're in it for life, everyone, and so it might as well be pleasant and, you know, nutritious and and just gorgeous and make you feel good.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, the Silicon
Valley bros. Yeah, very good. Exactly that.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much, Nahid. I really loved our conversation. I'm sorry that life.
Please don't worry. It's fine. It's life, isn't it? It's okay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We got to connect, which I'm really happy about.
And it's been really lovely to have been joined by you guys. Ask us any questions, because this will be on our whatnot on the Instagram thing afterwards. And do join us for the workshop, because it'll be really good fun.
Yeah, can't wait to see you all. Thanks so much.
Really can't wait.
Get home
Thanks
safely.
so much. You take care.
Bye.
Bye.